222, hello, and kind of on, hopefully, don't know, I have no idea if anyone's going to be watching, still, I just thought I'd try something a bit different, not so much different, but this week I've had a bunch of questions from different people about setting up Soundcards, streaming stuff, and a couple other questions about production bits and pieces, so I thought I'd do a video just to kind of answer a bunch of the regular questions that I'm getting. And if anyone's got any questions as I go through this, I'll do my best to reply and go from there. So just going to check quickly that I've got people watching. Let's go on. Yeah, YouTube Live. I think it's going to be a bit of a delay between what I see and what actually comes through. When I checked before, I think it was like 20-second delay. So just going on my page now. Yeah. And my comments come on. Wayne's liked the video. Wicked. All right. So, yeah, chat thing isn't working as I wanted it to, but still. Hi, for people who don't know, my name's John. I'm a recording engineer and I'm a producer based in South Wales. I work predominantly out of two studios. I work out of Rockfield Studios in Monmouth from time to time, and the other studio is Leaders Vale Studios in Abervale. And I said that one of the things I'm looking at doing is just answering a couple of questions from people I've had this week. Before we jump into that, I just thought I'd do a bit about music industry news and stuff that's going on at the moment. So, good start. Right. So, a couple of things that I've thought I'd bring up and have a look at today. Something I've noticed from... It was a band that I worked with in Rockfield. This is ages ago now, a couple of years back. It was a band called Joan of Arc, and they posted up recently that Spotify have actually announced there's like a make a contribution supporting artists. You can like support them through the Spotify links online. I saw a couple of things about a couple of comments saying, well, like Spotify should be paying people more. I completely understand that point of view, but I think anything at the moment for everyone, any support that anyone can get, obviously. From touring musicians, a lot of bands have lost a lot of income from supports and stuff, and a lot of cancellations are happening. So I think it's one good thing. I think with regards to like Spotify streaming payments, yeah, I completely understand it. Obviously, it's not the same amount of money that you might have been getting from CD sales from like iTunes as much, but every little helps at this moment in time. One of the other things as well is if you're in Wales. I posted this up a couple of days. I posted this up last week, I think. Definitely was last week. And it's about the Urgent Response Fund. So it's for creative individuals who are working out of Wales, may not be eligible for like certain strands of income and funding, like say like business contingency loans. And obviously a lot of musicians in Wales and the UK, funding isn't always available for you. There's the first round of the Urgent Response Fund. Closed on the 20th of April. There's another one now on Wednesday, the 6th of May. So next Wednesday, there is funding available for that. So I recommend having a look on that. If you go on my Facebook page, John Constantine, music producer, I've got a link to this website. But you can also look at arts.wales, and that'll give you a link as well, where to go and where to find the information. I'd recommend having a look at that. And the other thing as well that's actually been announced, I've seen this week, is the Save Our Venues and the crowdfunding campaigns for music venues as well, because it's looking like at the moment, with regards to like a lot of the venues are going to be closed for a long period of time, and that's obviously going to have an impact on their income. And I think it's just to kind of raise awareness. The one I've brought up is green rooms. We were really unlucky actually in South Wales with regards to like green rooms and Club at Bont both from Pontypridd or Treforest, Pontypridd area, both got affected by Storm Dennis at the start of the year. And this is just kind of like, it's one more thing that they have to kind of look at and worry about. Obviously with COVID-19 lockdown, a lot of venues are going to have big issues with regards to actually like opening up. So the fundraisers have started as well, and this has been organised by the Music Venue Trust as well. I imagine there's going to be a lot of independent venues in the same position all over the UK, and you might have seen that the funding, obviously different crowdfunding campaigns have been set up for them. So please have a look at that if you can support anyone throughout this. I guess every little helps with everyone really. Other things, just before I just jump in, but the questions. Mundanes, like one of the tracks I produced last year, I think Stone Throws just come out on Spotify, and I think another song is coming out in the next couple of days as well. And yeah, I really enjoy working with these guys. They're really, really cool. So just gonna have a quick check now on Facebook. Any questions? No, cool. Right, so I said, like, there's a couple of questions that I've had from different people, and I thought what I'd do is just really quickly run through and just answer some of the things that I've had coming up over the last couple of days. And the first, let's have a look now. There we go. So the first question I've had is from a couple of different people starting out, like a lot of musicians, is regards to Soundcards. One of my friends recently, he's upgraded to actually Catalina, I think, and his sound card is no longer supported. This is something that happens quite often with Macs, is the drivers sometimes, especially for older sound cards, might not be compliant with the new operating system. So one of the options is you either roll back to what you had, or you update, or you either roll back to an earlier operating system, or you update the sound card or buy a newer one. So what I've actually looked at, the sound card, it really depends on your budget, and this has actually come up a couple of times. The first ones that I'd probably be looking at, if you were looking at under £100, $100, the first two that I'd probably recommend having a look at, Audient ID4 and the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. As far as I know, I believe that both of these sound cards will work class compliant. What class compliant means is for like iPhones and Mac computers, you won't need to actually add a driver, because it actually just works natively with the core audio in Mac operating systems. So what that means is you just plug it in for USB and it'll just be ready to go. That's been around for quite a while, and it's something that, like my sound card, I've got Allen and Heath Q16, like a live desk. I got it when I was in a band doing function work, and it was just been really, really useful for other bits and pieces. But it is great. Absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely brilliant just to like connect up to the sound, just to connect up to the computer. I don't need to install anything, and it just works. And if I wanted to, the other thing that I could do with this desk with the Q16 is I could plug it into the lightning connection of my phone, and that would actually work as a sound card for the phone as well for live streaming. One of the other things I had recently was regarding connecting. Thanks, Rich. Go back. One of the other things I've had recently is also regarding connecting like live desks to the computers and trying to work, or connecting to your phone as a sound card as well. And this is where like if like I think it was the sound of Tom Lewis asked me a question. It was the Soundcraft UI16, which is a live desk. It's like a live digital desk, and it's got a USB record out on it, but it's actually for like USB sticks. And what that means is you plug a little USB stick in, it will record to the USB stick, but it hasn't got the drivers to actually connect to your Mac. So it won't work in terms of connecting to your phone. So honestly, like both of these sound cards are absolutely brilliant. The Audient sound cards use the same mic pre's as in their large format consoles, which you probably see in a lot of studios. I know we've actually got the Audio mic pre's in the studio in the Leader's Vale as well, and honestly, they're brilliant. And I'd recommend them. And the same with the Focusrite. You just plug it in, it just works. And Focusrite have got a massive long history about developing stuff, both UK companies, which is great. And they just work. And like the newer versions as well, like every time, like the quality of the sound cards and conversions now are brilliant. If your budget is a little bit higher, I've put two from Universal Audio, two Soundcards from Universal Audio. The reason I've chosen these, the Arrow is the cheaper one of the two. You might be able to get an Apollo Twin secondhand. And what's really good about the Apollos and the Apollo and the Arrow is they come up with UAD processing. So that actually takes some of the strain off your computer when you're mixing and recording. And that lets you kind of like throw some of the plugins processing onto those cards. The Arrow, I think, comes up around about 400 quid. And I've seen Apollo Twins go for secondhand. They might just go for just under £500, but they can be more expensive as well. With the Apollos as well, like one of the reasons I actually really recommend them is you can actually expand them. You can expand onto, they do like rack mount units, so you can do like 8-channel inputs, they do 16-channel inputs as well. So if you want to expand your system at a later date, Universal Audio is brilliant for that sort of thing as well. And if I was starting again now, if I was going to buy something, the Twin might be the first one that I'd use, because of you can actually use it to control the mic pre's, you can use it to control your speakers as well. So it's a nice little handy unit you can have in a desktop. They're connected over Thunderbolt, so that's the only thing. Is if you've got an old Mac Pro, like a silver chassis that didn't have the Thunderbolt connections, that's the only thing that would kind of stop you from getting these at the moment. But I'll look into that in a second anyway. But honestly, like the Arrow, you can just, it's literally just one Thunderbolt connection from the laptop and it just powers from that. The Apollo Twin has a separate power supply, so it isn't as portable, but it's got a bit more power with the processing on board. So it's worth having a look at and seeing. Next thing that I've been asked about is recording software. And I've done a little bit. It's really, what I recommend for anyone who's like doing demos or anything, like just use whatever you can just to kind of get ideas and sounds and what's simplest to you. The first two that I'd probably say for free stuff on Mac would be GarageBand. It comes with loads of amp sims. It comes with like quite a lot of stuff that you actually need built in, and it's more about music creation. And if you're on iPhone as well, GarageBand's brilliant because there's also got a loop section on it as well, which is a bit more like Ableton Live. But honestly, I think I've done a video on my YouTube channel. What I'll look at doing is at the end of this video, I'll put links to everything that I mention in the comments or the descriptions of the videos. And I'll kind of go from there. Douglas, hey mate, how's it going? So Douglas just asked, building home studio, what interface can you recommend for 8 inputs to record drums? It depends on budget. What I say, like with the, I mentioned just now about the Universal Audio stuff. I know you really like Ashzone. I know he uses UAD stuff, the Apollo stuff. The Apollo Twin, it's got 2 mic pre's built in. And then it's also got an ADAT port, which is like a digital connection. That'll actually let you expand the interface to 8 more channels as well. So you could look at like a Focusrite Octo Pre, which is like an 8-channel mic preamp to add on to it. Focusrite Scarlett, there's like, I've got to get some links up really quickly. Focusrite Scarlett's also really, really good ones. And the I think Audient do some really good mic pre's as well, which you could add into the Apollo Twin. So that might be one way of doing it. Generally, like the Claret, the Scarlett and Sapphire ranges from Focusrite were brilliant, and honestly, I'd recommend like those to start with. It really depends on your budget. If you wanted to go for something a bit more expensive, the Universal Audio Apollo 8 Pre as well would be a good one. And any Thunderbolts Focusrite units are really, really cool as well. So hopefully that answers your question. 8 inputs for drums. Yeah, that's probably what I'd recommend to start with. Recording software, go back on. So we've got DAW, GarageBand, GarageBand, and then Windows, and the free software is actually Cakewalk. Cakewalk used to be a company that actually ran a program called Sonar. It got bought out by Gibson, and then they just kind of didn't really do anything with it, didn't know what to do with it, and then kind of just stopped development for everything, and they got bought out again. And it is a free program, and it's pretty much a full in-depth recording software that I'd probably recommend if you're starting out. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it's got tons and tons, it's like years and years of development in that to have a look at. I would really recommend that for Windows, but it really depends what you're used to. With the Universal Audio stuff now as well, if you're on like a laptop or over Thunderbolt connections, newer Mac Pros, anything from a trash can upwards, the Universal Audio literally in lockdown or the COVID-19 situation, they've actually brought out Luna, which is a recording software for their sound cards. It's basically a bit like having Pro Tools HD from like 10 years ago. And that's something that I think at this stage at the moment, it's still early stages with it. There's still a lot of things it's not quite doing, but I think with like the sound cards as well, like the universal audio stuff, because the processing actually happens on the card, it's freeing up your laptop to, or like your computer processors to actually use the use the processing for other plugins and actually take some of the strain off. So I think that in the future is going to be really, really interesting and useful. I wouldn't mind having a demo of it, but I'm pretty sure that my computer won't run it because it hasn't got Thunderbolt on it. That's the reason, really. Okay, next question that I had. This one came from Steve. Steve's the keyboard player in Secret Faces, and he was asking me about Mac Pros and these old ones that actually work. Let's have a quick double check. Thanks. Again, nice one, man. The Mac Pros on the old Mac Pros. Now, my computer, the one that we're actually running in Leaders Vale, is a Mac Pro 4.1. And I bought that like 2009, 2010. I can't really remember. And I got it. It was an 8-core processor, and I'm actually still using it today. It's what I'm running this off now. And I think I think it was last year, I think it was the year before last. I went through and upgraded the video card, the RAM, the processor, the Wi-Fi card, and the Bluetooth, and also the hard drives to solid state. And it's still running like a dream. And actually, we're in a stage now with processing that I think my native system's working better than the Pro Tools HDX system that we have in Leaders Vale as well. So with Mac Pros, I think we're getting close to the end of the life of these now. I'll go into that a little bit about why. The Mac Pros, if you're going to buy one, there's only two. Like if you're going to buy one of these old Mac Pros, you're looking for like a 4.1 or a 5.1. Anything less, like they're getting a bit long in the tooth now. And there's also the speed of the processor and the speed of the RAM. And as the computers get newer and as software gets more complex, they actually need more processing power to do what they needed. I've got one plugin that I use that I can only use on mastering sessions because it absolutely tanks the processings on it. And it's I can't even remember what it is. It's based on like an SSL Fusion I got. It's an amazing plugin, but it just literally just takes up all the cores and it just goes mad. So what you're looking for, 4.1, 5.1 system, and you're looking for a dual processor system if you can. The reason being is that can give you 8 to 12 individual cores. And what that helps you with then is if you can look at upgrading it, like I've done, you can end up having like 24 threads on your computer for processing. So this is literally what I've got on mine. My video card I upgraded as well. And there's a PCI card that you can get for Thunderbolt. It has to actually flash some custom. You have to flash some custom firmware onto the card to make it actually think that it's natively supported by Mac. From like user feedback or like demos of it, a lot of people were hoping it was actually going to work with Luna, but there's something to do with the old Xeon processors. They don't support something within Luna that won't let it run, but it will actually support the UED processing cards. So if like me, I was running Pro Tools, if I was running Logic, it would be really useful for something like that as well. It would just be useful to actually get some more UAD cards, processing off that, and then I could use that actually in my mixing session. So it still might be something that I'm looking into. And it could also mean that I could get HDMI support to use my camera for streaming as well. So it's something that I'm looking at. If I wanted to go to Luna, I might have to update or I might have to use a laptop or something just to try it out and see what it is. So I'm really interested about that. Another one. This one came from Ped, friend Alex. We call Ped because he looked a bit Spanish when we were younger. Don't know why I said that. First microphone, anything that I'd recommend. What I've been recommending quite a lot recently is the Aston series condensers, so Aston Origin. First came into contact with that. I was doing a session with a band. The band were Psycho Comedy from Liverpool. They were doing a session with us in Ebervale, and producer was Gil Norton. And at the time, Gil was doing the demo testing for this before they got announced. So we had a Spirit and an Origin, and for the money, you can't really fault them. Like they're really, really good. I think like the Origin's like 180 quid on some stores, and it's built in Britain. It looks like a tank. It's like it is. It doesn't look like a tank. It's built really, really well, and like at 180 quid, you can't really fault it. If you're looking at For other condensers that I might recommend, Audio Technica, if you can find it secondhand, or AT4040 or an Audio Technica AT4033. These are really, really, really good mics. The 4040, looks a bit like that. There we are. The 4040, that was my first mic. And I bought that because it was just recommended, I think, on Sound forums. And I stopped using it for a while. I don't really know why. I just thought because it was so cheap, it wasn't that good. And then I think I started working for Nick, and we were in Rockfield, and I just bought it along with me as like an extra mic. And you know, at Rockfield they've got a lot of U87, like Neumann U87s, a lot of vintage tube valve mics, and for the price and stuff, I was actually really impressed with how it stood up to everything. After actually using it in Rockfield, I realised no, it's a really good mic. And the same with the Aston stuff is the quality and the technology is coming on at such a stage now that it is really, really useful. I think so. Aston's really good. Audio Technica stuff. Some of the SE Electronic stuff as well is pretty cheap, but really, really good. If we're looking at dynamic microphones, so not condensers, let's go back from there. If we're looking at dynamic microphones like SM58, yeah, it's great. If we're looking at something else for like podcasting or recording, some voiceover stuff, maybe the SM7, and again, Aston Stealth. I've used that. It's got a couple of like settings for, for like voice settings for recording guitar, and it also looks really cool as well. So like, SM7 might be a really good one, or the Aston, again, just depends on your budget really, but have a look at it. And just something, I think, as a first microphone, it's just something that you need to kind of do like more than one thing. So something that kind of be multi-purpose. But again, it's honestly, like Aston's, you'd be really, really good starting point. Yeah. Next one that came from Adam with regards to, I did a video on my YouTube about the analog Cat 5 snakes. And the reason I did the video is because you needed to expand the headphone setup in Leader's Veil. And I'd actually bought these as a trial because I think they cost like 20 quid each. And the closest thing to it was the radial Cat 5 snakes. More or less the same thing, and they cost like the same thing cost about £100. We're using these in the studio to run extra XLR leads into the live room and using them mainly for headphones. And the question was like, can I use these to record with? The answer is yes. The only thing with these 3-pin XLRs is they won't carry phantom down because all the Ethernet connections are just for the audio signal. So if you were going to use them in the studio for microphones, you might need to get an additional phantom power unit to actually power the microphone, which wouldn't cost that much money. But honestly, for us, it just saved us having to drill a hole in the wall and put some more mic leads in through. Because if people who don't know, we inherited the studio from Aberfell Institute. We kind of, everything had already been designed, set up, and so we're always kind of running try catch up a little bit with regards to the setup. So they put a bunch of Cat 5 connections in from the control room into the live room. The reason for it was that I imagine it would be for like a hearback system, or like an Avium system as well. I think Behringer have just come out now as well with the power play units. And it was initially to connect that, but for 20 quid, I've got when we go back to the studio, I've got my Allen and Heath desk, which is literally by here. The Allen and Heath desk connects up. Then we've got like extra headphone output, so we can actually use it for setting up headphone mixes as well. So I'm running like a couple of the outputs on that into the Cat 5s, and they're running into the studio. So yeah, they will work, but again, you will need phantom power from an external unit to do that. I think that is the last question. Yep. Right. Just have a quick look now. If there is any more questions from you guys. Questions. Paired. I was hoping that like one of the things that I was doing with I'm streaming actually through Restream. There's Richie's fine. Okay. Richard Jones, I'm thinking of putting out bootleg recording of my band. It's a little quiet, but the show is great. Is it possible to Hans for an official bootleg recording? I was hoping that like one of the things that I was doing with I'm streaming actually through right. Okay, I was thinking about putting a bootleg recording for my band. It's a little quiet. The show was great. Is it possible to enhance it for an official bootleg release? Yeah, I'd probably recommend using Logic, because I know that's what you've got. I'm trying to have a look now. What am I on? With Logic, I'd probably look at using something like a limiter or something on the master bus. I'm just going to load up Logic, and I'll do I'll just show you really quickly how to use that. Richard Jones. So if you do that, I'd probably import the audio into Logic. Just do a new session, and I'm gonna get audio. Let's make it a stereo, so make it input 1 and 2. Great. Right, scenes, display capture. Way. Okay, Logic. So I've got Logic up now. Let's have a look. Is this coming through? Yeah, we'll never know. Who knows? Right. So say we've got like some settings on here now. I'm probably going to have to put that down, mute the master, just because we can see that the mic's coming through, because this Logic is connected to my Allen Heath desk. So if I started recording, let's take that off. Cool, yeah. So I say this is recording. This is the bootleg recording. Brill, here's the sound. It's a stereo image, wicked. What we're looking at doing is, if we're looking at settings, I might just stick with the default settings for now, and there's an adaptive limiter. I'd probably recommend using this. And basically output ceiling for these days, if it's going straight for streaming, I'd probably say having an output ceiling of -1, which is the settings that Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and a few others actually use. And then we're looking at trying to get... there's like, let's have a look at right, utility meters. Trying to remember, specialized. Nope. Metering, loudness meter. So then I'd probably look at having a loudness meter as well. And I think it's like -14. Anything over the LU of -14, -10 will probably be a good starting point. But what I'd say, Rich, is I'll set your Dropbox link to send me some stuff over, just have a look at, and I can send you something that way. It's probably the easiest way of doing it. I've got an Amio. I've got an M-Audio budget, but it's doing what I need. What are the best options for monitoring headphones? It's not great, that setting, is it? Nice t-shirt. I've been had. Yeah, nice t-shirt. Yeah, Peg got me this. Let's go on this again. Let's go back on that webcam. Peg got me this. Hey, IC crowd. Best options, headphones. I'm a massive fan of Beyerdynamic DT770s. For recording, there's two types of headphones really. You've got open back and closed back headphones. I'll tell you what I'm actually going to do. You've got open back and closed back headphones. For recording, I'd recommend, if you can, is getting closed back headphones. The reason being is it actually keeps the sound, if you look at the back of here, they're solid. And because they're solid, they actually try and keep the sound inside the headphones. You're not going to get bleed, especially with click tracks and stuff. So that's one of the things, reason being. So it depends on, what's your budget, Rich, actually? I'm going to load up questions on here, because... That's not going to work. What is your budget, Rich? Going, having ads. Yeah, DT770 is what I'd recommend. I think Studio Spares do a couple of sets that are actually pretty cheap. I'll have a look through and I'll put a link. I'll send you a message with the comments and stuff. But I've got, yeah, the 770s are kind of almost kind of like a studio standard. There are better ones as well, but I think you can get them for just around about 100 quid. And it's one of those things with a lot of audio equipment now, is like, if you can save a bit of money extra and just get a little bit better on, you know, save a bit of money on what you're doing and spend a little bit more earlier on. It's like that thing of buy cheap, buy twice. I remember when I started, I just literally went out and got some like Studio Spares, a set of 5 headphones, like 100 quid, so that they were 20 quid each, and they lasted less than a year. So one good set of headphones will kind of like last you. I've had these now almost 10 years, and I bought them as a pack. So I've got about 3-4 sets of these, and I use these in the studio. I've got really used to mixing on these now as well. These are great for recording. For mixing, you can get ones with open back, but if you're recording stuff at home and say you're doing vocals and stuff, if you've got the open back and you've got a click track going or anything like that, that'll bleed into the microphone as well. So it's something to have a think about. Have I said hi to Ad? 100, 150. Yeah, go for the 770s. Adam, what's going on? Right, Adam says. Thanks, wicked. Right, oh, that's a shame. It doesn't like come up on my. I'm streaming this to like YouTube, Facebook, and a couple other places, and my Facebook profile isn't coming up on my chat window, but the Facebook page one is. Adam said, "What is your Desert Island mic pre?" Desert Island mic pre. And my Facebook profile isn't right. Desert Island mic pre and compressor. Desert Island mic pre would be the Neve 1060 mic pre's they have in Rockfield. They're really, really old. If not, also the other ones are the Rossa mic pre's as well in Rockfield. The green channels, I think they were around when they were recording. Bohemian Rhapsody, but like the Neve 1060s are. I always forget this wrong. Geranium, I think, is a flower, and germanium is the transformer that's in the 1060s. I love those mic pre's, and if not, like it's Neve 1073, 1084, what I'd love to have. But what I tend to use quite a lot of the time, what I'm actually a massive fan of, you don't really see people like talk about, is the SSL VHDs, the variable harmonic drives. I love those on guitars, and I also really, really like them on toms because you can kind of like run a distortion on them, and really, really helps with in terms of the kind of just getting them to kind of cut out. So look, what other questions have we got? I really wish. Let's go on my YouTube as well. No one's watching. Wicked. Really, really helps with in terms of loving it. Right, close that down. All right, where are we now? YouTube comments. Personal Facebook page. Should have known. Does mic pre compressor. My favourite compressor at the moment is probably an LE2A. Like the opto mic pre. Opto compressors. They're quite slow, but I love them on acoustic. I love them on bass. They're not really doing too much, and if not, then obviously 1176. Whatever comments we got? Loads more. 13 comments, and I can see 4. Uh, 6 people watching. Right. Right, and let's go back on me. 38 minutes. £6. 38. Cool. So we're just actually watching me do nothing other than like mess around on my own Facebook profile. Okay, 250, 80 ohms. Right, okay. Impedance of 250 will give you a better sound. I'd say I've got the 80 ohms is for drummers. So what I'm talking about here is the headphones again. These ones here are 250. And these are really, really good. For 80 ohms, I'm using those for drums because they're a bit louder, but the quality isn't as good. So for what you need, a 250 should be fine. I've used these on my laptop as well, and they always sound great. So again, yeah, the 250 will be fine. Any other questions from you guys? I've already answered your question. Ped, I've already spoken to you. Hi, Rob. Dustin. Hey, Dustin. Cool. All right. What I'll say is I'm going to put a link up for anything. So I'll put up a couple of links about recording for you guys with regards to some of the stuff I've talked about. If you have any questions for me, just drop me a message. I'll leave me a comment on the video. I'd love to hear from you guys. I've put up with regards to the DAW stuff, if you're just starting out with recording and you've got GarageBand, I put up a video on my YouTube channel about setting up for demos and recording demos. If anyone's interested, I'll put the template up for download as well, and I'll put a link in the comments as soon as possible. I'm just going to leave it open now for a couple more seconds. I'm looking at using that with the Helix and mixing. Yeah, that's fine. But hopefully I'll try and do a couple more of these in the future. If you guys have any questions for me, as I say, just leave me a comment, drop me a message, and I'll do my best to reply to you. But thanks very much for watching. No idea how it went. Hopefully it wasn't an absolute car crash, but still, cheers guys, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.